sorry, Sylvia. Call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is minutes from September 6th. Make a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Chinese words, refrain.
Okay. Is anybody here for Sam Johnson tonight?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, we can probably pass on that one, we're on that one for now. Second up was J. Mataji LLC, 2187 Depot Street. And it's my understanding the applicant was withdrawn,
He's going to member, to request for amendment.
withdrawn the request from them.
So he's going to comply with the condition.
So I guess we close it
Right.
with no prejudice, if he does
Yeah,
sense.
so I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Can you say what kind of a request that was, or permit? If any?
Yeah, it was just, he was looking to, amend the permit. There was a requirement for, 4 washers and 4 dryers. And they had 2, and they were gonna put 2 more in.
Where was this? Up-
Chalet.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I wanted,
And he
I'm
didn't-
sorry, I
But,
wasn't
no, that's fine.
connected.
Who's the second?
I don't have an agenda over there.
Yeah, okay. Next up is Heidi Jeffrey Chamberlain, 353 Point Tree Lane. They're looking to subdivide the property, and I think that was,
That's going to be moved to November meeting.
so make a motion, recess that till the next year,
You make a motion to recess it until the next meeting.
or continue it till next one. Continue this one.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Todd Meyer, 5261 Main Street.
Oppose that.
Okay, who will be testifying tonight?
My name is Michael Byer.
Two, right?
That's my son Todd. Todd owns the building at 521.
And probably Peter will be testifying tonight.
So I should probably step down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that former Myerson house?
Correct.
I mean, I can't see behind my desk.
Just do, set it up.
So, Peter, the 2 of you be testifying, is everybody else?
Todd possibly.
Todd, just swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
Absolutely.
Peter, yep. You do right, Pete?
I beg pardon? Yes,
Swear
I
to
do.
tell the truth,
Of course I
okay,
do.
thanks. So do you want to give us an overview of what you're looking to do?
Sure. We're here to discuss the renovation project located at 5261 Main Street. We are proposing an expansion of the front porch to connect to a new porch that we're going to construct on the side. The side porch doesn't require any kind of variance or waiver. It meets all the setback requirements. The front portion of the porch, however, extends as a non-conforming structure at this point that extends into the front setback. We're trying to propose a design that involves, a creation of more friendly green space and pedestrian-friendly elements. We're removing the existing driveway. This parcel had 2 access points on both sides of the building. We're proposing to lose one of them on the south side of the building and fill it in with green space. And so we're in front of you today because the application and the decision by the zoning administration's interpretation of the Town of Manchester Land Use Development Ordinance, Section 2.8, non-conforming structures, uses in lots, subsection 2.8.1. They indicated in a denial letter that the proposed porch expansion did not meet the ordinance. A quote from the letter is, "The expansion of any non-conforming elements will be prohibited from further expansion into the existing setbacks. 18.5 feet from the curb per the town engineer. It's my understanding that the front setbacks are 10 feet as per zoning ordinance and not a road right-of-way ordinance. So we respectfully submit that the porch does meet the ordinance as written. The ordinance as written says that any proposed structure will not result in any portion of the non-conforming structure encroaching further beyond the existing non-conforming building line or height. What we're proposing doesn't encroach any further along the building line, as it's now non-conforming, or the building height. So that's why we're here today, because this is, I guess, a step beyond what the zoning administrator is allowed to approve within his judgment. So that's why we're in front of the review board today.
So the, you're saying,
Can't we wait for Peter?
you're only, no, Peter's right here.
Where
He's,
is he?
Oh,
Oh,
he's
sorry.
so you're saying it's 10 feet?
The front setback for this zone is 10 feet to any
Okay.
structure.
10 feet from
From
the property line? Okay.
Correct. The building is right at 10 feet. The front porch, pull up the existing plan. The front porch that's existing on the building now, the biggest encroachment is approximately 5 feet. It leaves, leaves I think it's 4 foot 9 inches plus or minus to the front property line. So what we're proposing is to not increase that non-conforming distance with the far front corner. Pull up the layout, the site plan.
Yep.
So what happens at this point here, from the front of the porch to the front property line, is the non-conforming distance.
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Pre-existing non-conformity. We are, in our proposal to expand the front porch, we propose this would now be the same distance that this is here. We would end up pushing the porch back. The building and the property line are not perfectly parallel. There's a slight skew coming in. So this portion of the front porch, we would push back a couple inches so that this still wouldn't encroach on this distance anymore. Which, the way the code reads, is as long as we're not increasing the encroachment to the building line, which we interpret as the entire front of the porch, then we're still within the code. And this board has the power to even grant us a waiver for that.
Which would be, if that's the case, you would apply for a waiver, is that what you're?
Correct. If you guys agree that the interpretation is that as long as we don't encroach on this any further, that you would then be allowed to grant us a waiver.
If you apply,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You're not applying for a waiver right now, right now it's warned as a,
Just an appeal.
appeal.
Correct.
Okay.
So the idea is to get everybody on the same page as what the interpretation is before we file for a waiver.
So your contention is that building line is the line of the porch or the line of the building
For this
itself?
point of non-conformance.
At the building, the non-conforming building line is defined as what is non-conforming now. And as long as we don't, A, enclose the porch as per the code, and don't increase that encroachment, which we wouldn't, we would maintain that encroachment, and it's a porch, which is specifically called out in the code, then this is within the board's right to grant a waiver for.
And so you're stating that the porch is considered a building or not considered part of the building? I'm just trying to grasp if the line would be the front of the porch And the side of the porch, what is the line? Is it the horizontal or, I'm not really,
The way the code reads, it says the non-conforming distance that creates the building line. So right now, that non-conforming distance is the front of the porch. Now, the porch isn't the structure. If it was the structure, we're not allowed to enclose the structure or make it any kind of living area. That's what kind of defines that this is allowed in a non-conforming structure, especially pre-existing as far back as this is pre-existing.
Peter?
I only have 2 points.
Yeah.
The first point I want to make is that my interpretation of that is that no further encroachment would be allowed, and that's kind of restrictive in my mind. So that's where I ended it. And further to that is the right-of-way that the town has to install the sewer wasteland goes 18'6" from the curb line in. Your proposal to us would have encroached by 2 feet, is what I gathered.
It would encroach on the right-of-way, which is more of an easement, but the ordinance is set up to the property line. I mean, if they ever had to come back and dig farther, they're gonna take the porch as it stands now with it also. So if that's a concern for the board, we can design the porch to have all the supports outside the right-of-way, so they can literally dig underneath the porch if they had to, and not hit any of the foundations. We can even design it to be freestanding completely off the building, with V braces and other structural elements that would completely support the porch without having anything in the ground here.
Or, I mean, I guess, question to Peter, can we approve any construction in the right of way?
I don't believe we can.
So that, we'd probably have to contact our attorney.
I
I don't know if we could even, it's pre-existing, the porch that's there now is pre-existing, so we can't do it, can't do anything about that. But if you're looking to add something to the porch, whatever, I don't know if we can even approve something in the right of way. And that I do not know. Whether it's, so your land, the right of way is on your property? Okay.
If you go onto the state's website, as far as where the right-of-way is, it's actually showing about 3-4 feet into the building.
Well, that's
It's a state road.
state right of way. So is there 2 right of ways, Pete? Is there a town right of way and a state right of way, or?
I checked only with Chrissy Haskins, who informed me that the town right of way goes 18'6" from the curb line. And that's all the information I based that decision on.
So that curb line right now is not existent, so it can be pushed back further than what was, what's shown here, or even brought closer to the road. So there's a
But
variable there.
Is there, because I asked her for a copy of I figured it was an easement or some kind of language that went with the right-of-way that maybe says you can't build or can't construct anything. And she hasn't gotten back to me on that request.
Do you have a current survey?
We don't have a current survey.
So there's really kind of,
We can get Nance to come out and survey it, but it's,
Well, it's a moot point if,
right.
I think the best bet would be for Peter to contact, number one, the attorney, to see what what an owner's right is to build or whatever right away. It makes sense, like you say, if you're gonna have a porch that you can take off if they have to work in there, but I don't even know if we can approve that.
right.
So I don't.
So, I mean, basically, we'd be added expense to maintaining that right of way should there be a problem in that area.
Well,
So,
or there might have to be something in the permit saying that if for some reason the town had to get in there to do some work, it wouldn't be the town's responsibility to move the porch, it would be the applicant's. I don't know. I just.
That was my next suggestion, is if there's some language we can put in there that keeps the town from having to maintain that if it's in the right of way.
But I think, to be honest with you, I think it looks good. I'm not against what it looks like. I think it's
If anything, it's getting further away from the road.
I think it looks good, but I want to make sure if, we can't really approve something if
We've been doing this for about a year. The DAB has been nice enough to, entertain us and continue to try to guide us. So this was the next step, is to kind of, we know it's gonna get illegal. So let's get the town attorney involved and find out exactly what we need to do if we can.
Right. I mean, it's,
So did the DAB essentially approve the facade, the design, and
Yeah,
all of that?
so, over the past year and a half, both for the porch along with other design considerations, we've gotten to the point that you see now where that we are a historic structure and we're taking elements and attributes from that existing covered area, and as we expand it, we're continuing that language. So brackets, columns, and railings that all correlate to the historic significance of the house,
But getting to
along
it,
with matching other adjacent.
the answer is no, we did not get there because then it got tabled due to the setback. So they were gonna come back with additional presentation.
Depending on what the legal
Right.
answers are.
So pending the outcome here, you would then go back to get the DAB approval on the design.
I guess I have a additional question, because you bring up the state right away. I guess my next concern would be, do we need to see something from the state granting you approval to build on that right of way as well?
I'll contact them, because we're gonna actually request the right-of-way maps for that area. And I talked to the surveyor of, where's the right-of-way start and, so that, he suggested we do that to start off with. I'll get a contact from them and find out what their restrictions are, relay it.
It might make sense, rather than have the town go through that expense at this stage, get your, and, because if the state says no,
yeah.
it's a moot point.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we'll work together.
I have a question, but it has nothing to do with.
Fire away.
Is that porch like handicap accessible or anything?
Because when we purchased the property, it
People
was,
have to speak up. It's hard to hear.
Is the porch handicap accessible?
when we purchased the property, it's zoned into mixed use, and it was a mixed use structure, meaning there was office on the first floor and living spaces on the second and third floor. So we converted the front half of the building to a first and level family residence, and then maintaining office in the building. So because we use our office under the 3 or 4 person limit, we technically don't need to make it handicap accessible because it's still
The office area is all one level with the parking in the back.
And they can access it.
through the back.
I just thought it would make it even more useful.
Well, if the board wants, we can always put a ramp here. I mean,
Yeah,
we can adjust design.
that's.
There's gonna be a bunch of fill here to add that green space back, so we can play with those levels to make it either one step or a single ramp from the back onto the porch.
And it looks like you got rid of a bulkhead,
Correct.
so do you have access to the basement somewhere?
Through the house.
Through the house, not outside.
Correct.
Are there 2 entries under the porch there?
Yes.
Correct, there was an existing entry through this door here. This was the only way to get to the second and third floor. And so as part of our new design, this would be an entry exit onto the porch. And this is now connected as one floor.
So that other entry's kind of in behind the trees there, yeah. So you go out there and you go down the steps towards the back, is that
Correct. All right.
right?
Correct.
Any questions?
No, I've seen the designs.
Second scene, yes.
But this is the latest and greatest.
Yes, I see that.
Question, Sylvia?
Yes. Why did you think there was a need, or what is the need for the porch? Is there a need, or you just,
We want to improve the curb appeal for your Main Street Manchester.
yeah, but you have, with the winter weather and the snow plowing and all, and also vision on that corner. That's all a problem there.
Vision on what corner?
Looking out or looking in?
I go up and down there a lot because I come up here a lot. And I live right around the corner from the roundabout, near McWinn's Jewelry Store. So when you come up, you know, around there, that's a busy corner.
Yeah, that's
Corner,
not
though.
Sure. I don't
Not
think
sure
so.
it's not on a
I was
corner.
gonna say,
Well,
this is
you come around there by the Palmer House. This isn't too far from the Palmer House.
it's about 4 residences south.
Yeah, well, I know,
Straight
but you're
portion.
going, the road is narrow, and you're going around there.
So is the concern, Sylvia, that you're gonna
I
lose
don't,
line of
I don't
sight?
like to see so much jutting out.
But
I
if you-
think the
But are you
former,
concerned that the line of sight is gonna be
No,
compromised?
Maybe look
Yeah,
at that
it's not
picture,
a road.
Sylvia.
Okay.
yeah,
Look at that picture
Yeah.
there.
yeah. I know, I go back and forth there a lot. I'm very familiar.
Okay.
I never,
Yeah, so this view being just about in front of Cemetery Ave,
Yep.
right next to the library there.
Okay. So,
I mean, that's
It's
not
just-
gonna be a sitting porch, because you're sitting right on the road.
Right
okay,
on the side, the front's gonna be 5 feet, and the side would be 8 feet, yes, we would be sitting out there. That's where the sun is.
Big view away.
Well, I
any other questions?
smell all that exhaust.
So I think,
Can I
oh,
just say
another
something?
question from the audience, yes.
It's not a question, I just want to say that we, Lisa Council and I are with Trust Company of Vermont. We are next door neighbors to this property. And we love everything that they've done so far. I mean, everything has been a vast improvement. We think the design is beautiful. Just one.
Oh, it is, and like I
I don't
said,
think we're discussing it.
we're not discussing design at all. I think it's a great design. I think they've done a lot to the building, and it looks good. But we just have to see if legally we can approve something like that. And there's nothing as design, I think it's great, but, we just have to figure out if we can. So maybe we can recess it to, I mean, how long do you think it'll take to, will we be able to figure this out in a month or so, or what's your?
When do you guys meet
I-
next?
What's that?
When do you meet next?
First Wednesday of
November
November.
1st.
And when do you like to close the agenda by?
We need 3 weeks to get it on the agenda to get it published.
3 weeks? No, I'll touch base with you before the end of the week. If we're making good headway, we'll put it on. If we get stalled or can't get anywhere, we'll push it to the
Yeah,
side.
we need to have some material information to take the next.
I mean, is it
one.
something if it did get approved, would it be something you'd probably not be able until spring anyways, or?
Correct. As you drive by, you see that we're still doing the front of the house.
So if it's November, December, it's not a big deal?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. We're not in a rush.
I mean, if you wanna, if you wanna wait till December, that's fine too. I mean, it's the first Wednesday of every month, if you wanna wait till the first Wednesday of December, that's fine, or?
Let me touch base with Peter within a week.
Okay.
Because my worry then is then we gotta get back in front of the DAB and then come back. We gotta do a lot of hopscotch back and forth, so. I'd like to be ready by spring.
I guess, does it make sense before
The
going to
DAB, you can look at
DAB?
it.
Well, we still got to approve the porch. Does it make sense to come back, because we didn't approve the porch yet,
Oh,
does it make sense to come back to DRB first before going to DAB? Simply to, so we, you know, because DAB is gonna want to make it contingent on this board regardless.
but you could do that. You could,
That's right.
if the DAB,
That's right.
you could approve the design of the porch contingent on the permit, so you could go.
But if this board has additional questions, there's no further comments made at that point, right?
As far as the
That's
design.
anything, as far as anything. Because that would be, then it would be closed at that stage, right? Because, does this have to come back to us?
Well, I mean, it should come with a recommendation from the DAB for design.
Oh, it's okay.
Go in front of you guys for approval. That's typically the way it should go.
So I would recommend if you guys looked at it, and they could approve the design contingent on the permit, and if it doesn't get a permit, the design's okay, but the permit's not. I mean, that would get you one step farther ahead of the
Yeah,
game.
so you're recommending go back in front of the DAB and just get the design approved while
Right.
we're also trying to figure out.
Yep, I'm a little worried that, some feedback will be, contingent on some decisions made at this level too. Everyone wants to have the conversation kind of together, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure what you're,
If the DRP instructs the DAB to render a decision on the design, I think that would kind of force a vote. See, in a year and a half we've been in front of the DAB, we never really forced the request of the vote. We kept working with them to try to work things out, and then that's, at a certain point, we ended up here. So we don't want to keep dragging that process.
Are you at a point that you can deliver 100% of your total design and be done?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I guess the concern would be if they force you to reduce, they give you a setback, you have to revise the sizing of things.
If we gotta go less than the 5 feet, it's not gonna be worth it. It's just, I'm not gonna have a 2-foot walkway around the house. That's not gonna look good either.
Yeah,
At that
so it's
point,
pretty much either that or nothing.
yeah, okay.
at that point, we'll revisit the version of just a side, correct?
So you wanna make a motion, he says till,
So,
what's it, November 1?
November 1st.
November 1st?
I'll make a motion to recess till November 1st.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Anybody here for Sam's Pizza?
Is everyone support signed in? Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, if nobody's here for Sam's, we'll just recess it till November 1st.
I think the only remaining item on there was the stockade fence proposal, so there's no one present.
Well, I had some questions as far as, is it going to be, he's not here to talk about it, so he's not here to talk about it, so I just wanted, and if you do talk to him, my question would be, are you going to, is the fence going to go all the way around the dumpster? Because it's, like, the house that sits out back is kind of close, and probably would like to see a fence. I mean, the picture that I saw just showed it around the front, but you really can't see how far it goes, but I think it should be totally closed. Unless anybody feels different, I mean, what's your thoughts?
You seem to know the neighborhood in the back there further, so I would agree with
I
that.
agree.
I agree, I didn't know whether we also had questions about the dumpsters themselves, bear proofing, or if.
And I think
Yeah.
he was gonna recommend, or he was gonna
Okay.
do bear proof, and then he said something about the firewood being stored inside. The only question I have about that would be, would the fire marshal allow that or not? I don't know.
Yeah, no, we have to.
But I hate to, I mean, if he says it's gonna be inside, then it'll be inside, and if he can't keep it inside, he's gonna have to come back to us for something else, but I just hope he might wanna have a game plan just in case they don't approve it. So we're not stuck
Didn't he have it
approving
inside?
something, hang on just a second, Sylvia, just so we're not in the situation of approving something that he can't do, and then we're kind of boxed in to try to figure a way to make it work. Put a shed out there, whatever.
I was just gonna say, didn't he have it inside in
No.
the
It's all
location?
stacked outside Michelle's,
Yeah, it's in the shed, dormer, in the shed.
Oh,
on the backside, yeah.
I thought he did store some of it outside, but he had.
I don't know.
To use
Yeah. I-
regularly for the oven, had some,
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sure
I'm
he
sure
must have had
he must have had
something.
some inside to use, but in the statement made was all the wood storage could be inside. So I just had,
oh yeah,
that's just a
because he
question.
has enough room now.
Right, but I just
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, it's a wise, thing to consider. Could be a problem.
Anything coming in for next week, Peter?
There's gonna be another appeal for, Aunt Bonnie's.
Nice.
Decision, by the DAB was to not approve, not make a recommendation to approve the sign as proposed.
And were there any options for her, or was it just,
Well, there've been plenty of options, she's just opted out of those options,
Okay.
so.
we'll look at that next meeting?
And I think that at this point, she's received legal opinion, the town's legal opinion, as to what, what the parameters look like there. So,
Who are we talking about now?
what's the name of that place?
Yeah, but-
And
Aunt Bonnie's.
Who?
Aunt Bonnie's,
Oh, Aunt Bonnie's.
Yeah.
and I think she's working with Hans Hussey. You know Hans?
Oh, yeah, I know Hans. So she got counsel then at this point. Yeah.
And did anybody, were there any other recommendations or questions on the new or proposed new ordinance, or is that?
It's kind of quiet,
Okay.
I've not heard anything more.
So everybody got to say
I got some,
comments,
Yeah.
do you have any comments on that?
I read it,
Yeah.
still getting up to speed on more of the technical stuff, so I
Okay.
didn't have any actual feedback, other than I should have said I agreed with Cynthia's comments.
And I think they did, the whole planning board did get a copy, or, I know, I think you sent one to Phil.
Right. And
Did the rest of the board?
No, I didn't copy any of the rest of the board.
Did the select board get a copy of it yet?
This, I don't know, because I give them to Scott, so
Okay.
I would hope that he disseminated.
We might just wanna talk to Scott to see if he did get it to them, because I know,
There was a meeting that was supposed to happen yesterday, it didn't get canceled or postponed, I think.
a select board meeting.
There was no select board last night.
But, they probably should just get a copy of it too, just to, we can talk to Scott about that. Anything else new, or are we gonna get out of here early tonight?
We're gonna get out early.
Wow,
This is a record.
that is,
Well, I mean, we have two, we got Heidi.
Nobody
next
showed
week.
up.
Yeah. We got Heidi next week too, the waiver.
how you
How you
doing?
change.
Right. Yeah,
So, I don't know if we can talk about it now, or should we stop the recording, or?
you can, yeah. You wanna go to the executive session?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's make a motion to go to deliberative session.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Okay, you're gonna give me a minute to get up. I need some grab bars here.
I don't think Gina's paying attention either.
I'm paying attention.
He
You're not coming back after executive?
Huh?
No.
Okay,
No, I gotta get stable.
Have a good night, Cynthia.